Welcome, everybody. I think we're going to get underway. My name is Hilary Inwood. I'm the lead of Environmental and Sustainability Education at OISE at the University of Toronto, and I am absolutely thrilled, as always, to be working in partnership with the TDSB's EcoSchools program. We've got quite a few of the EcoSchools staff with us today. Pam Miller is in the room as one of our co-hosts. Welcome, Pam. And Jen Vetter, who is one of the EcoSchools team members. We've got Elise Kennedy working with us, who floats between EcoSchools and OISE, does just about everything. And so we're really happy to have so many of the team here today. Thanks for joining us. We're so really thrilled to have so many of you joining us as well, for that matter. Really thrilled that you are coming to learn about gardening with children online. I don't know if you know, but the National Children's Gardening Week is coming up later in May. So we'd like to say that we planned that purposefully, but in fact we didn't. So it has worked it out well for happenstance. We're thrilled that you've come to learn with us. We're gonna aim for about a 45-minute presentation today, and we've got some fantastic speakers to join us. We will begin with a bit of a land acknowledgement to start off with. It seems very appropriate given that we're talking about gardening, but we're also here to welcome three fantastic presenters who are experts, local experts in the Toronto area on gardening. So Sunday Harrison from Green Thumbs Growing Kids is with us, Laura Penny from EcoSource, and Brooke Ziebell from FOODSHARE'S. So you'll be hearing from each of them as we go through today's session. Just to get underway, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the work of Christy Belcourt, who's just an amazing Ojibwe painter here in Ontario. Christy's work is completely garden related, so it's a wonderful inspiration for our land acknowledgement today. This is her piece called Reverence for Life. She painted it in 2013. If you haven't been to her website before, I can heartily recommend it. And what a great way to introduce Indigenous ways of knowing to your children that brings in aspects of gardening and art all at the same time, which are two of my favorite things, I have to tell you. So I'd like to acknowledge that we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas, of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. And we also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples on this land. So I'd like to introduce you to get going today to Sunday Harrison. Sunday is the Executive Director of Green Thumbs Growing Kids here in Toronto. And I have to tell you that she has got the most amazing garden that she works with. Well, she's got a couple of gardens, but the main one that I love the most is at Winchester Public School. So if you haven't seen it, my guess is you're probably allowed to wander down to the edges of it at least to check it out in its early growing stages, and we'll be learning a little bit more about the garden from Sunday directly. So Sunday, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point.
Thanks so much, Hilary. Yeah, Green Thumbs has been working in partnership with 3 or 4 TDSB schools for a number of years now, and quite happily we are actually allowed on our school grounds at this time. Staff only, no programming, but what we're doing is maintaining the gardens for food production. And thanks to the Sustainability Office for seeing the importance of keeping food, urban agriculture going. Also thanks to the Toronto Public Health team that has developed really excellent guidelines and protocols for members accessing the garden. So even though there's no programming in our gardens, we are maintaining growing food and opening them to a garden club and with those protocols. So I'm happy to relate more information about that to anyone on the call who's interested later. But let me just jump into our online programming. Our mission, which you can hardly see on the slide, says stuff like cultivating environmental stewardship through hands-on learning. So we're really struggling with pivoting to the online stuff, plus, the physical work that we're continuing to do. But I want to introduce you to my coworker, who is our garden educator. And she developed the social distancing bingo card. So we'll go to that one first. Then we'll go to some segments we've been doing with rocks, and then some other stuff.
While Hilary's pulling up that video, we have a question about the protocols around COVID. How are you managing your garden?
My email address is there. I can share the documents that we're working from.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sunday. And I did put your email in the chat.
Perfect.
Okay, I think we're ready to go.
Hey everyone, it's Ohima here from Green Thumbs. Today we want to introduce a game that you can play from the comfort of your own home. It's a game we like to call social distancing bingo, Green Thumb style. Our Green Thumbs bingo is a fun way to stay busy, connected, and entertained even though we're socially isolated. By playing along, you'll get to bring gardening indoors, stay physically active, and maintain positive mental health. All you have to do is complete 5 activities in a row on your bingo card, document it by taking a photo or video of the activities, and then share with us so you can win free seeds or seedlings. Now, we have 2 bingo card versions. One is for children that are 12 years and younger, and the second is for youth and adults. So feel free to use whichever card that applies. Now, let's take a look at the bingo cards.
Hi, I'm Anuja from Green Thumbs, and I'm going to explain how to play. The children's bingo card includes activities such as dancing to your favorite song to get you up and moving your body, or meditating for 5 minutes to help you de-stress from the day. Activities such as germinating seeds can be done with seeds found already in the fruits and vegetables you already have at home.
That's our social distancing bingo, and we've had some players so far. It's on our website. I think the link is included in the presentation if you want to grab that. Okay, so Rox, who's on the call actually, hi Rox, has been reading to his students every morning. And so we early on decided to do an every Friday with Green Thumbs. So it's been a lot of fun. It's pretty easy going because Rox is also entertaining his young Henry, as many of us are. Working with young children at home is pretty amazing, and it takes a lot of multitasking. So anyways, there's the channel if you want to check that out. Rox teaches grade 1-2 at Rose Avenue Public School, which is one of our school partners. I just ran down a few of the books that we've read and activities that we've done in keeping with the book content. So the first story is Stone Soup, which is a wonderful story about sharing and how everyone's health depends on everyone else's health. And the activity that we put with that was growing vegetable scraps. I've linked the best YouTube I found on growing fruit and vegetable scraps, and so we used that in one of our Fridays, and then we came back to it on the following Friday to see, you know, how our veggie scraps had done. So it's lots of fun, and I think Hillary, you said you were doing some of that at home too. So that's a pretty easy peasy activity, and you don't have to go out and buy anything. I think obviously the problem is we don't want to send people out to buy stuff. So the next thing we did was we organized so Rox read this book in a couple of, it took a couple of passes because it's a pretty long book. Magic School Bus Gets Planted, and you learn all about photosynthesis and stuff. Pretty fun. And to go with that, we did a bean seed germination test. And so basically this is a way to see if your seeds are good. And it's also a little bit of a math exercise. So you take 10 seeds, you wrap them in wet paper towel, stick them in a Ziploc bag, and count how many sprout.
And just out of interest, Sunday, what kinds of seeds should you use?
Well, we each used what we found in our cupboards, and Rox had better luck than I did. I had 0% germination because I think my seeds were a little old. But Rox, actually, he had 9 out of 10. And so we got to count those out and look at what they looked like, how the seeds appear once they have their roots and the beginning of their shoots. And there was one that just went slimy. So we had 9 out of 10, and we discussed how you figure out a percentage. So that was kind of, was a nice tie-in with math and language and science, of course, as gardening is. Cross-curricular.
Had a question from Pat wondering if there are resources in French that you can recommend.
The Stone Soup is definitely available en français. Don't know about the Magic School Bus. I think if anything, it would be an Espanol, but for sure Stone Soup. So then what we've done is partnered with Greenest City. So this has been kind of a good time for organizations to work together to maximize our all of us being on the bottom of the learning curve on online teaching. So we partnered with Chimu at Greenest City, and this was kind of following on both of our organization's youth programs. And so the staff got together and created a program called Grow In Together. PDFs from that are available at the Drive link that you can see. And if you check our social media, you can sign up for those as well. They're not actually recorded because it's a Google Meet, a little different than the Zoom platform, but they're going deeper for sure. If you go to our website, you can grab our Instagram or Facebook links from there. It's all greenthumbsto.org.
Sunday, we will make sure that all the links that you've included, we'll send out to everybody post-webinar.
Great. So we've been working with the City of Toronto and TDSB on a Native Trees from Seed project, and it involves naming the trees in Anishinaabemowin or any language, any Indigenous language that we can find for that tree, but mostly Mohawk or Ojibwe language. And so we learn about the tree, we learn about its role in the ecosystem, and we grow it from seed. So we're going to be launching part of this program as a kit that we can send the seed out to you. So if you're interested in that, it'll come with a 20-minute video or so on that will be the teaching side. And we haven't quite figured out how to, really maximize the hands-on piece yet, but at least you can get seeds in the mail and you can grow a Kentucky coffee tree, and we'll take it from there.
Wouldn't that be an amazing legacy, Sunday, to have this whole new forest across the city, across the
Totally.
GTA?
And I have to note that that particular tree, the Kentucky coffee tree, is considered the second best urban tolerant tree in Toronto. The first is the honey locust, which is full of thorns, so no thank you. But Kentucky coffee tree is actually like a super good tree for our city streets.
That would be a nice legacy from the pandemic if we had a whole new group of trees.
Yeah, and it's Bijou Atig in Anishinaabemowin, which basically refers to the pod shape being like a big cat's claw. So there's some fun stories and things to learn about the tree.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much, Sunday. We're going to roll right into our next presenter. And our next presenter is Laura Penny, who's the Gardens Education Coordinator from EcoSource.
And while Laura's getting ready, she also posted in the chat the link to EcoSource's French resources.
Yeah, I should note that those resources are not specific for indoor activities, so may or may not be the best fit for right now, but there's lots of garden activities.
And Laura, you also have resources for students with different abilities.
Yes, we do. I can actually share the link to our general publications page. So I'm going to go through mainly just one activity. It's pretty good for almost all ages, but at this time it might be more suited for a little bit higher levels, maybe high school. But first, a little bit of background on EcoSource. So EcoSource, we're an environmental nonprofit focused on delivering hands-on learning opportunities to engage the community and promote environmental action. We work in several different areas. So a big focus area is waste reduction. And I should note that we work primarily in the region of Peel. So we deliver the region of Peel's waste education programs to schools in Mississauga. We also deliver teacher education programming. So we offer a series of modules every year, supported by the TD Friends of the Environment Fund. And I can share with you some of the upcoming webinars that we're offering now in replacement of our in-person modules. So we offer that as a way to take some of the things that we're offering and be able to integrate it into a classroom setting. Then we run sustainability education programming, which is a much broader scope, engaging our community to think about how we can live more sustainably. We run youth leadership programming. So EcoSource is kind of the, supporter organization behind the Peel Environmental Youth Alliance, which is completely youth-led organization that kind of determines their own goals and environmental activities, projects that they want to tackle in a year, and we support them to lead those. And then we have our food literacy, community gardens, and urban agriculture programs. So EcoSource works with the City of Mississauga to facilitate 8 different community gardens with allotment gardens, as well as one larger urban agriculture site. And at all of our sites, we have field trips and community groups coming out to visit us and engage them in gardening normally in other circumstances. bringing groups out for field trips and other learning opportunities. And then also recently we've got a new teaching kitchen. So we've really expanded our food literacy programming, taking groups in our kitchen and learning about how we can transform our foods and really integrate local foods into our daily lives. So just a little bit of, I mean, I think we all know why gardening is important, but there's so many reasons why it should be integrated into our lives. So, you know, connection to nature and also the mental health benefits that brings. Promoting physical activity, a way of promoting stewardship, things like tree planting and just taking care of our neighborhoods. So many ways you can connect these things to your curriculum and learning objectives. And then it's a really great way to bring in interactive activities. So one activity that I'm suggesting that I think is fairly accessible in these times is making seed balls. So seed balls are simply a ball of earth or clay. Could be other materials that are, you know, rolled into a ball to create a protective casing for seeds. And this helps to retain the moisture around the seeds once it gets rained on, prevent erosion, and also discouraging bugs or birds from eating the seeds that are inside. And then also if you're putting something like compost in the ball, it can provide nutrients or beneficial microbes to those seeds when they start to germinate. And seed balls are used to create habitat for pollinators and promoting biodiversity. So you just roll those seeds in the ball and toss it somewhere where you want to create habitat or promote native plant growth. So you can increase native plants and help spread wildflowers and beautify neighborhoods or restore landscapes. So they're a really simple activity to make and then to toss and talk about those different things. So to make it, you just need a binding agent and materials that will support seed growth. So that could be some soil and clay, or flour with a soil and compost and water, or clay, soil, compost, water, or even I've seen some with like basically paper mache, shredded paper in a blender. So there's a few options depending on what you have at your disposal, and there's lots of more specific recipes online. I also shared a link that I think Hillary will share as well for a YouTube video if you want a tutorial with a flour-based recipe. So using that, you just create a mixture that is malleable, hide your seeds inside, roll it into a ball, allow it to dry for a couple days, and then toss it anywhere that you want to spread the seeds. So it could be an empty lot or the edge of a trail or something. Really simple process and a good way to bring in a conversation around habitat, native plants, and others. Right now, getting seeds is maybe the biggest barrier to this, but there are a few ways that you can get around this. So for folks who are able to encourage your students maybe to get out for a walk, and this could even be part of the activity, learning to identify some native plants, doing some research on what native plants are around or how you can identify them, and then collecting the seeds from them. So a few easy ones are things like milkweed, which is in the bottom when it's in seed and when it's in flower. And at the top, the echinacea. Those are fairly easy to identify even at this stage because you want to find last year's seed heads, of course, so that they're mature. And they're pretty easy to identify at this stage of year. Or if you have can source a wildflower or native plant mix, you can do that. And then another option, actually, I found out today that the Toronto Seed Library is offering seeds for free, and they're doing curbside pickup, or they'll mail them to you. So you can put in a request to get seeds from the Seed Library as well. And most seed libraries have a lot of wildflower seeds available, so that can be another option. Worst case scenario, I guess, or maybe best case scenario, depending on how you want to view it. You can experiment with saving seeds from kitchen vegetables, so things like peppers or tomatoes, and then use those to guerrilla garden some vegetables, with the disclaimer that kitchen vegetables are probably going to give you really uneven results, but that could be part of the experiment. And then there's so many ways that you could, I'm sure people are already thinking of ways that you could connect this to different themes or ideas in the classroom. So you could talk about seed dispersal, how seeds travel and how humans are impacting that, human environmental impacts and interventions, even soil composition, so what your seed ball is being made of and why, land use, because seed balls have been used as a way to guerrilla garden or also to restore lands, guerrilla gardening, eco-activism, talking about plant growth and development, even the history of seed saving and how humans have harvested seeds over time and stored them, and ecological restoration, and so many other ways that you could connect this to different themes and larger ideas. And I didn't even put on here like biodiversity and habitats, all of that is connected to this. Yeah, so that's one option for an activity from EcoSource. We've got lots of other activities and ideas and things coming up. So one thing I definitely want to mention is that we do have our teacher training modules coming up. Those we've moved to webinar format. Some ones that are coming up are reducing ecological footprints through youth advocacy, as well as we have another fun one coming up is composting in the classroom, if you're interested in things like vermicomposting. So those are coming up soon, and if you want to register for those, you can just go to ecosource.ca/events and see our whole calendar. These ones are specific to teachers or educators, but we also have a bunch of just public workshops and webinars coming up if you're interested in just learning more about gardening. And in addition to that, we have lots of resources for activities. We also have a publication out for working with kids with exceptionalities and engaging them in gardening activities. Most of our publications, though, are focused on outdoor activities. So again, you might find a few that work for this context, but if you're looking for something later on, there's lots of those in our publications page. So I can share a link to that as well.
That's wonderful, Laura. Thank you so much. Those are great ideas. And I love the way that you took such a simple activity like a seed ball and you connected it to really rich, big ideas that you could take across the curriculum for literacy, for math, for social studies. There's all sorts of ways that you could connect those. So thank you. That was just terrific. Really appreciate that. Laura did send me some great resources. I'll be sure to send that out as a follow-up email to you in a couple of days. We have one more presenter for you today. We've had two fantastic presenters so far. Thank you, Sunday. Thank you, Laura. And that's Brooke Ziebell from FOODSHARE. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Hillary and Pam, for bringing this awesome group of people together. I just wanted to mention as well, Laura, I have done seed balls before, and it's one of my favorite activities. I haven't done it in ages, but I was going to say, it's one of those activities that just appeals to everyone, like even those really super cool teenagers that are too cool for anything you have to say, even they get really excited about the idea of guerrilla gardening with seed balls. So I can't recommend that one highly enough. And you've given such a great range of different ways to do it in an accessible way too from home, which is really neat. So I really enjoyed that. Thank you. All right. So I'm from FOODSHARE and I work in the community food program, formerly known as Field to Table Schools. FOODSHARE does a great many things, and gardening with kids is just one of them. We do a ton of different stuff in the community across Toronto. We are a food justice organisation, and we're really working towards food as a basic human right for everybody, regardless of who you are, where you come from, and what your income is. So while I'm talking about myself mostly, but while a lot of us were sort of sitting and twiddling our thumbs when this shutdown happened due to COVID-19, figuring out, oh my gosh, where to next? What on earth are we going to do? We have a social enterprise program at FOODSHARE that really hit the ground running. So one of our quickest responses has been these emergency good food boxes. So we're working with over 40 different community partners to get free produce boxes that look exactly like that you can see on your screen, to families and individuals across the city. And we're doing about 2,000 of these a week. So if you go to our website, this is the first thing that's going to pop up right now. And you can donate, and that's how you do it. And that's a little donate button right there. And while corporations are really stepping up and family foundations have been helping us a lot, majority of funding for these emergency good food boxes have come from personal donations, which I find pretty interesting and pretty positive as well. So my program that I work in is community food programs, and we're doing food literacy education through the ages. So we start with babies and toddlers, and we teach caregivers about you know, how to introduce solids and fussy eating and all of that really fun stuff. We obviously work with children and youth as well, which is our focus for today. And we do lots of different curriculum-based activities to do with anything regarding the food system. And that picture there is one of my favorite events called the Great Big Crunch. It happens March every year, and we get as many people as we can to crunch into an apple at the same time. And then new to our program as well is community kitchens. So we're also working with grown-ups now, which is fun. It's opened up a whole new world for me. So we're doing hands-on you know, hands-on workshops and events for people of all ages. And soon, once this whole thing blows over, we'll also be working with seniors as well. So I'm pretty excited for those changes. Okay, so today I'm going to be pointing out some lesson plans that you can download right now. And all three of the organisations featured today have free resources that you can access, which is really great because you can do whatever you like with them once you download it. We do love hearing about it though, so if you do download any of our lesson plans, please tell us what you did because we're really excited to hear about like any adaptations that you might have and any curriculum ideas that you got from it. Today I'm going to be talking about an activity using upcycled materials to get you growing from your home. And as well, I'll be pointing out any free workshops and resources that you might be interested in getting involved with. Okay, so when you go to FOODSHARE'S website, like I said, there is a lot of stuff and we have a lot of programs. So I thought I'd just do a little bit of navigation here to point you in the right direction to get you to the lesson plans to help you out with your students. So if you go to foodshare.net, you want to go to programs and it's going to look something like this. So this is the button you want to click. At the moment, it's called Educator Training, which I am the first to admit isn't really indicative of what it is. We're going to be doing some website updates soon, so that name might change. But if you, at this point, if you click on Educator Training, that's where you're going to find a whole bunch of lesson plans that you can download for free and do whatever you like with. Today, I thought it might be good to focus on this You Built It series. So it is a TD, Friends of the Environment funded series. And as part of that series, we have some workshops around building a worm bin in a classroom setting, building a bee condo, which would also be a great one from home, build a pot bottle planter, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, as well as cooking off the grid as well. So we're going to be talking today about this. So this is actually a cold brew coffee container. I'm burning through these at the moment from my home. So I have lots of these planters on my windowsill and it takes about 2 seconds to make. And it is great for that grade 4 to 6 age range, but also very, very doable with all age ranges, obviously with just more or less supervision from grown-ups. So this is what it looks like. You can see there's one cut through the middle and then you just invert the top and pop it into the bottom. In the bottom here, I've got some string that also leads to the inside here. And this top part is where you're going to pop your soil and your seeds. Okay, you're going to need some string. You keep the lid, and this is just a little hole to add some water. And that's not even necessary because you could just do that as well. So if you wanted to do it even quicker, you could. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So what do you need? You need some bottles of some kind. We call them pop bottle because it's catchy and because it's for children, but it could be any kind of bottle. And then here are my two daughters. So I have a 3- and a 5-year-old who I've done this with, and they got a real kick out of putting the stickers on it, if nothing else. So the kids really do enjoy decorating their pop bottles. And in terms of materials, it's pretty basic. So I used a Stanley knife because I feel comfortable with that. But if you were doing it with kids, what you could do is do like a little starter cut, and then they could just use regular scissors to cut the rest of the bottle. You need some string, you need some soil, and you need some seeds. And that is it. And then you let the magic happen. And here are some examples of us doing this in the classroom setting with some middle school aged kids. And they came up with some really fun designs and they really enjoyed it. So depending on the time of year, when we did this in classrooms, we did need grow lights to make this happen. But this time of year, if you have a sunny windowsill, which is what I'm doing at home, it's working just fine. So I did want to just make mention as well that if you can't grow it, or if like, for example, you know, your students don't have access to soil, that kind of thing, there are some really great things on YouTube that other presenters have talked about as well that are really worth watching. So if you can't grow it, you can watch it. I know we're all about doing, but it is like a good, you know, runner-up prize, I guess. So here's one that we really like, which is from PBS Food, and it's called Kitchen Vignettes. And one of our food heroes, Karen Washington, has like a 4 or 5 minute clip about her Swiss chard that she grows, and then she makes a quick recipe, which is a really nice one to recommend. New to this series, it's not on our website yet. I can send you the PDF. Maybe I'll send it to Hillary after this. If you're interested, we're sort of adding to this series of upcycled materials. And this is a fun one about using food scraps to dye fabrics. So that's a neat sort of art and food collaboration as well, which I'm always a fan of. So I can send that if anyone's interested. And then if you want to find out what else is happening with FoodShare, here's where you can follow us. We have lots of free workshops and seminars happening across the different programs. So not next Monday, but the Monday after that, we're going to be taking over the Instagram of one of our partners, Urban Arts Toronto, and we're going to be doing an Instagram live session at 11 a.m. And when that flyer comes in, I can share that with Hillary as well. And Ranu, my colleague, is going to be making one of these. And it's a pretty neat collaboration of going online, and it is focused on youth. So if you have youth that you want to share that link with, that would be a good one. And youth are actually eligible to win a good food box if they join in and engage in the Instagram live session. So yeah, we're really just finding our feet and trying to figure out how to reach, our audience that we usually work with. Here's an example of one gardening event that's happening with our colleagues in the Urban Agriculture Department at FoodShare. They're doing tons of online workshops. They're all free. Here's one that's actually happening tomorrow. It's very casual. It's Ask a Gardener. So you can come with your questions, and you can either do that by following that link, or you can email my colleague Natalie at foodshare.net to get involved with that. And it is tomorrow. But then you get another chance on the 20th as well if you miss that one. We have some handouts and resources. And again, I'll share these directly with Hillary in PDF format of some, gardening for rookies, I'd say. So this is like some basic tips if you're getting started of how to grow in containers and what's your biggest bang for your buck in terms of growing. And then there was a really nice article as well in CBC that's worth checking out also. And here's me flailing. This is all new. I'm still trying to figure it out. And I think Sunday mentioned this as well, we're all just trying to figure this out. And so teachers, we're really used to working very closely with you, and we're still around. So we really want to hear from you to better understand how we can support you. So is it just webinars like this? Is it just links to lesson plans? Or do you want to see more like pre-recorded videos? Or do you want to invite us to do Zoom webinars with your students? Like, we're really trying to just get feedback from you, and I know it's been such a panicky full-on time. So hopefully everyone's feeling a little bit more settled into this online environment. We'd really love to hear from you. And of course, everyone today has mentioned about the equitable resources for kids. So we want to make sure that it's equitable and accessible and have the biggest impacts. So we'd really love to hear from you about that. And that's it. Thank you.
Fantastic, Brooke. Thank you so much. You said you're just starting to get your sea legs on this. I don't think so. I think you're flying already.
Don't feel like it.
Congratulations to FoodShare for really making such a really huge effort to feed people who are hungry in our community. I'll put in a personal plug to all of those who are online with us today and see if we can't get a nice flow of money going to the website.
Yeah.
This afternoon. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing those great ideas. I'm going to just share my screen one more time. I'm going to put in a shameless plug also for the Oise Learning Garden. We've got resources online as well to help out. And in fact, as these webinars start to wrap up in June, we will be picking up some of the slack on the gardening piece in particular through our community learning garden. We'll be moving our events online too. So we'll be sure to share those with you as we move forward into the later spring season. And I also just want to do a quick report in too. Some of you joined us for one of the earlier webinars as I started my windowsill garden. And I have to tell you, this works fantastic. So for your students that don't have the materials for seed balls, or not even the pop bottle to do the planting, all they need to do is take the tops off their vegetables and start to grow them. So one thing that I'm so impressed with, that carrot was the one I showed in an earlier webinar. And I have to tell you now, I don't know if I can see this, but it's actually just starting to pop a flower. That's just growing in water, folks. That's it. It's got really long roots at this point, and as soon as we stop snowing outside, I'm going to plant that in my garden. But even the beets that I started recently are growing just unbelievably quickly. That's lettuce to the left of the beet in the photograph, and also another carrot top. So this is a wonderful way you can do this work with your kids online. We've got lots of resources to share with you today too. We've got a number of apps that have been recommended to us that you can have your children or your students download, whether with the help of their parents or on their own if they're older children. And youth. We got some wonderful books that can support that. All of these were available on different online book platforms. Though I always like to put in a plug for independent booksellers if you can get one from curbside pickup. And there's also lots of wonderful picture books about gardening. I think Pam's put even more recommendations. Pam is our resident picture book junkie. And I think she's put even more into a Google folder for TDSB teachers to access. Is that right, Pam?
I have been collecting things from the California Native Plant Society as well as local places. So the Google folder that we'll share with you is more about teaching gardening. Anything from class management to lessons. And rather than just how to get started, because I know at TDSB, Jen put up, if you're going to start a new gardening project, we definitely want you if you're going to do it at your school, make sure you connect with Gail or Karen to put up gardening at your school. However, if you're doing this at home, those resources will be great.
I'm also going to put in another plug just for the upcoming EE webinars, whether you're from TDSB, from York Region District School Board, from Peel Board, or from OISE. We absolutely welcome anybody and everybody to join the webinars. We just want teachers to feel supported through this time and to really encourage their continued environmental teaching and learning with their students. So Lorraine Johnson, who is one of Toronto's very well-known gardeners, I have to tell you, she's written a couple of wonderful books. Brooke is nodding her head on native plant species. She's joining us next week to talk a little bit about how she's working through notions of reconciliation through her gardening. So I'm fascinated by that topic. She'll be joining us next week, so please sign up for that one. We'll be doing a session with the TOES team, the TDSB's Outdoor Education Schools team, on May 26th, and they'll be talking a little bit about how we can connect outdoor education to online learning. That's a nice follow-up from David Hucker-Budlowski's talk from last week. We're going to go to visit nature journaling, and for the next two sessions actually that are happening in late May and early June, we would love to hear from TDSB teachers. If you've got work that you want to share and some successes that you want to share with us, we would love to have you do that, please. That would be fantastic. And so the place that you go for more information on upcoming webinars and to access past webinars is the same place. Please go to the TDSB's EcoSchools website. They've got a new link on the left-hand side that says Environmental Education Webinars. But I want to give a very special thank you to Brooke, to Laura, and to Sunday for providing some amazing ideas for how we can do gardening with children during this pandemic while we're working with them online. And let's all keep our fingers crossed that this is maybe we can be gardening with them, I don't know, by June. Is that overly optimistic? We'll see. No formal announcements yet, but certainly we can be doing some early fall gardening maybe with them in September. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining today.